Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Chief Brian Applegate. Um, I've been a fire chief for the last 15 years, two different departments within the state of Illinois. Um, and I've been chosen by the governor to lead the emergency management agency. Over the 15 years that I've been employed as a fire chief, and even before that as a firefighter, I've vastly trained in hazardous materials, um, technical rescue, water rescue, and fire investigations. And I know what it takes to actually work together um, for a common goal in the event of a disaster. There's a lot of things that we need to pay attention to in the next few years because our environment, our demographics, um, our topography are vastly changing along with the weather. And that's one thing that we need to be prepared for in the future. As we've seen as of late, there's been a considerable amount of wildfires to the western part of the country. That has since migrated to the central part of the country as well, and actually into the Midwest, where typically we don't have those problems. The air is becoming drier. The conditions are becoming a lot more intolerable for um, various areas to keep up with the dry conditions. And as a state agency, we really need to be prepared for that. Part of what I'd like to do in the next few years, at least the next 2 to 3, is develop some more partnerships with other organizations that are probably in this room, um, from our military assets to our county officials, our hospital systems, our school systems, our private sector individuals and stakeholders. Very important that we need to all work together for the common goal. And the common goal is to make sure that we protect the citizens, we protect property, and we mitigate problems from getting worse. I kind of want to move into what our assets that we have currently in the state of Illinois. Part of the resources that we have right away from the fire department standpoint is called the MABUS system, and that's the mutual aid box alarm system. We have assets throughout the state in 102 counties that have various assets in them, um, ranging from air service vehicles to rolling hospitals to hazardous materials caches, water rescue capabilities, technical rescue, shoring capabilities, confined space, collapse rescue. All of those disciplines we have at our disposal in the state of Illinois, and we're very, very grateful for that. What I think we can do better with those resources, and me as an emergency manager working with the MABUS chiefs and bosses, is to strategically locate those resources better in the state of Illinois. There are certain areas of our state that are accustomed to different types of weather. In the urban interface setting in the city of Chicago, we're not likely to have wildfires in that area. Toward the middle southern part of the state, a lot more likely because of the weather changes in those areas. So we really need to ramp up the resources that we would need to have down there in the event of a wildfire, a flood. Right now, we're seeing a lot of flooding in the southern part of Illinois, into the Kentucky River Valley, the Ohio River Valley. All of those areas right now are impacted by strong weather. And right now, we're not adequately prepared for that. We can see that they're moving federal resources into those areas. And with that, having our MABUS statewide response teams, I'd like to integrate with FEMA a little bit more and have our state response team as a Federal Emergency Management Association team or agency team, to where we can be better trained, easily deployable, and have better resources. And that all makes a difference within the state of Illinois. That would make a huge difference in the state of Illinois. To have that federal partnership with with that agency would be very beneficial for this state. That's one area that I want to get to work on fast, is to make us a federal partner with our deployable response teams. Um, Segueing off of that is to bring more training to all the different areas that are with, or all the areas or disciplines that are within incident response. So we're talking about um, water rescue or dive rescue, again, technical rescue, hazardous materials. We can never have enough hazardous materials training because of all the commodities that are rolling through our railways and driving down our roads. Um, we've seen it happen in Ohio where they had a bad train derailment. They were not adequately prepared for that situation. I don't think really any state would be. They didn't anticipate that happening. But going off of what we saw, what we've learned from those scenarios, now we can better prepare ourselves for incident response, especially in the hazardous materials front. So getting more training into our state, and that goes from the fire department all the way down to the hospital system, okay, and all the agencies in between. Because right now, it's very imperative that we work with every agency equally, so that we can communicate effectively and get the job done more efficiently. Communications is the name of the game. In any public safety setting, we need to be communicating, streamlining our efforts, being logistically smart and savvy with what we're doing, how we're doing it, where we're doing it, and why we're doing it. And if we can get all of those partners on board with what we're trying to accomplish, we're going to be better off later on. Our incidents are going to get taken care of a lot faster. Resources that we may need are going to arrive quicker, and the problem is going to go away faster. One of the other things I want to plan for beyond hazardous materials response is, more urban interface where we have terrorism threats. In the land to the north of northern Illinois, the city of Chicago is a big terrorism threat. We saw what happens on the attacks of 9/11 and in other areas that have experienced terrorist threats or activity. We need to be prepared for that, because those events are domino effects. We're gonna, once one event happens where there's collapses or there's chemical weapons that are deployed, they all have a domino effect of the different specialties that we're going to have to integrate to make those problems go away. But we need to keep ourselves safe when doing so. We can't become part of the problem. We have to become part of the solution. And that's what my goal is to make sure that we integrate with all of our federal, state, and local partners, so that we can all be on the same page as far as how incident response is supposed to be. Our specialized teams are vastly important during these scenarios. We have highly trained individuals within Illinois that have gone through rigorous training, different classes, even I'm learning as I get into the role of the emergency manager of how much training the staff at the emergency management level goes through, so that they can adequately do their job and give the resources to the other local partners that we have within the state, so that they're adequately prepared in the event of an emergency or disaster. And although these things don't happen too often, these are high risk, low frequency events. Those are the ones that are going to really set us back if we're not prepared. And that's my goal here, is to make sure that we are adequately prepared, no questions asked, that we have plans in place to adequately take care of a problem. Okay. One part I think at the local level that we're having issues with is public trust, and rightfully so. There's a lot of media attention on bad things that law enforcement is doing, and how public safety agencies may be money hungry and pricing ourselves out of a job, things like that. And the public is hard to win over at this point because they want to make sure that they're getting a service that they're paying for. And I'd like to work with county executives, local fire chiefs, local police chiefs, local county emergency managers, so that we can really get into the community and drive home a message of safety, of empathy, and letting the people know that we're going to be there for them in the event of a crisis or a disaster. I think that's imperative. I think that going forward, that's what they expect. That's what I expect as a citizen, and I'm sure that's what all of you would expect as well. I mentioned earlier about the hospital system. They're a very, very important part of disaster management. And the reason being is that when we have people that have gotten wiped out by a tornado, or they have been exposed to chemicals or something like that, they're going to the hospital. They're going to be getting taken care of. And we need to have the hospital staff on board. The CEOs of the hospital, the project medical directors, all of those people who are going to be integrating into that command structure need to be aware of how we're going to have them integrate in with us. A lot of them have decontamination units. How are those working? What are we doing with those? Do they need to be replaced? Are they antiquated? All of those questions need to be asked, and I think through a thorough dialogue and conversation, we would really be on a good path to helping them solve any problems that they would have as far as, like I said, old equipment or something that's not working right, or just a training session on how to actually use those things so that the hospital staff is refreshed. And that actually helps public safety as well. For fire and police, because now we're going to know how to use that stuff as well. So if we integrate together and have the conversations, know the plan that's going to be in place, is going to be huge going forward. And probably the third year, I'd like to run an actual disaster incident to where we have to put the hard work that we're going to put in for the first 3 years of dialing in our resources, where they're going to be located, how we're going to be deploying them, who's going to be operating them. When all of that stuff is established and laid out, have an actual mock incident to where we can put these things to the test. That's going to be the real eye-opening experience for everybody to see where we're at as a state. And do we need additional help? Do we need some private funding from some other private companies that honestly may be in this room right now? There's been in times of need, the partnerships from Lowe's, the Home Depots, the Ice Mountain Water people, all of those companies that would provide a great service. I can tell you that just being from down in Louisiana for Hurricane Ida, the outpouring of support from all of the big chain companies was huge during that response, because that's how we were fed, that's how we got water, that's how we stayed hydrated, had extra clothes, had our clothes laundered while we were down there. So all of those things definitely come into play, and where do they fall into that structure? And as the emergency manager, I want to let them know that they are very much appreciated. And going forward, I think putting all of those pieces into the puzzle and forming it into a well-oiled machine is going to benefit not only our incident response, but we're going to be leading the way as far as emergency management within the United States. And that's what my goal is, to put Illinois at the forefront, to ensure that all of our citizens, our businesses, our CEOs, our hospitals, all of those different entities, that we are here to help in any way we possibly can, and we're going to do the best job with the resources that we have given to us. So I think through training, communication, innovation, teamwork, professionalism, all of those things that we can encompass together and work with one another on, to move the state forward and move the emergency management process forward so that we can provide a great response to a disaster in a time of need. I am so thankful that I've been put in this position. I'm going to work my hardest to ensure that everyone has the resources that they need to be successful, and I can't wait to get to work with each and every one of you. So have a great day, and thank you.